Uh, Please go ahead. So, first of all, I want to thank all the panelists for their time to address this webinar. We hope that this webinar will give a future direction to the steel industry. And from SHM side, we are working with steel sector from almost 10 years. So this webinar right now in crisis in this situation is the benefit, and also will pave a way to in a future actions. Now I request Vinod Novelji for their address. Welcome address, please.
Very good morning. On behalf of SHM, I welcome the participants, moderators, speakers who are attending today's program through the webinar on Revitalizing India's steel sector. Today, whole world is facing a big challenge of survival because of the unknown virus and facing COVID-19. I especially welcome Madam Rasika Chobe, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Steel, Government of India, Shri V.R. Sharma, MD, Jindal Steel Power and Limited, Vidyut Chakrabarti, I think he may also be there from KPMG, and Mr. Sahai from SHM. And today, this is very prominent speakers are there, panelists are there, and this topic is very relevant for industry. Steel industries are very, and today we are here to discuss actually where we are and how to we further take up it. So once again, I welcome everyone and I request everyone to participate in that. Thank you.
Right, Mr. Novel, we have one question for you, sir.
Yeah.
So the big question is that everyone is saying Indian steel industry is expected to go through a H1 for the current financial year. So it is almost down in construction and auto sector demand, and quarter 2 is unlikely to be any better because of monsoon, which is typically the quarter when we see comparative dip in demand in demand in normal growth. So what do you take on this?
It is more or less true that the steel industry is likely to go through a tough time in H1 for the current financial year. It's illogical to foresee very swift and optimistic change in the Q2. It's primarily because of the impact of the Q1, which has been marred with this ongoing pandemic and lockdown. Auto sector will continue to face challenges on account of the lack of demand, global recession, and falling income levels. The loss of sales was such that Indian auto manufacturers hardly sold any passenger car in April 2020, and quite many major automobile manufacturers' hubs remained shut. Consequently, there will be imminent job losses in most industries. People sentiments will be at all-time low, so purchasing will drastically reduce in auto sector. Cars which were increasingly touted as a necessity may once again fall back into the luxury goods category now. In Q2, where we see the decline in sales, is absolute true that building and construction it halted due to the monsoon, which is just one and a half month away from now. This time around is likely to be worse than that can predict, and it is an obvious writing on the walls. It does not need any expert opinion, if you ask me. Building and construction sector business are generally leveraged and hence will face the dual challenges of demand and the high interest payments. The industry, whether steel industry or construction industry, were facing the big problem last 1 year. There was a good time, 2-3 months, and suddenly we faced this COVID situation. Having said that, the other things that may come to rescue us or bring some respite is the investment we intend to foresee in infrastructure sector, both public as well as private, trunky projects of highways, overbridges, etc., as they consume the high chunk of the steel and likely to be one of the drivers of demand. If a series of infrastructure projects get initiated sooner, as before that we were discussing with Mr. V.R. Sharma, he was very much bullish, and I hope the government, whatever announcement has come shortly, all the projects which the government is thinking has to come on ground so that the demand can create. But another biggest challenge is migrant laborers who are panic and rushing to their native places. And these are the people who works in small scale industries, medium scale industries, and this construction business. And these three sectors create the demand for the steel. So this is the responsibility of government as well as corporate and industries to win them, convince them, and counsel them to stay back and work with the industry, because this is good for economy as well as it is good for even their own health. If they will move to their villages, they will carry the virus or disease. Better they should stay back, and we have this is responsibility on all of us to convince them. The S2 will be supported by boost to households income, that is oil importing economy, like one of us, we are also that is going to be a good boost for us. Same time for steel industries, the prices are of the coal as well as iron ore is softened, so that will also help. The stimulus as government has announced and the anticipated bank policy changes could help us a better second half. S2, in my opinion, definitely bring a good hope, and there will be a better time for all of us. Though there is a predictions, GDP average will be 1.9 as per IMF, but still I am very much positive and confident that we will do better in second half. Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Sahai. Hello,
I
Yes.
think we got disconnected.
Mr. Sahai.
No, I am connected. Yeah, I'm connected.
Mr. Sahai, we would request for your address, please.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, Ratika Chaubey, Madam, Dr. Vinod, Mr. V.R. Sharma, Mr. Vidyut Chakravarti, Mr. Deepak Sood, Mr. Jaydev Sharma, and our team members who are present in this webinar. As you know, we are living today going through a scenario where a force of nature has upset most of the ongoing mega trends in the society and economy. And it's indeed a watershed moment of the world. The virus has impacted all and in many contrary directions. The world economy has come to a standstill. The shock to the Indian economy due to Corona has been enormous. It's going to have a major impact on the trends of saving, disposable incomes, consumption. Added is the fear of job loss across sectors due to shrinking market demand. And this has triggered a paradigm shift in the mindset of middle class, which is the largest trigger of the consumption. For example, I have a little bit different take, Dr. Noel. Like, you know, we were in an age of Uber since last 1 decade, and Uber and Ola and their copycats, I would put all of them, had slowed down the growth in automobile. Young professionals were preferring just to hail an Uber and rather than buying a car or spend time in driving. But now with Corona, I see there will be a shift in thinking, and there will be a feeling of, for security purpose, there should be some shift in the automotive industry, at least to that extent. But and also there will be as I come further, I also have a take that there is going to be a tendency to save money among these younger generation. The concern for safety is also leading to change in their thinking pattern. It is also going to change the business travel among the most of the offices. And right now we have experienced so many virtual meetings that will also lead to reduced pressure on public transportation. So one side, there will be for security demand for auto sector, but public transportation demand may go down. Uh, Also, the global dependence on China, I feel that there will be some focus on shifting to local manufacturing. World has now got a lesson because of this China virus. So supply chain may become shorter, and the cargo and ship movements may get impacted, and it may have impact on the oil countries having they are producing oil. There can be a impact on them. Coupled with this, what I was talking of youth and the middle class, which had the disposable income and which were the most important in at least in our country, they were playing a major role, especially in the age group of 25-45. They are going to change their way of expenditure. They will be going towards saving, especially 25 to 35 group. Some of the consultants have come out with they feel that 25 to 35 group will start saving money. They would not like to invest unless it is essential. They will not go for luxury, and the 35-45 they feel will look for more security and stability and they may go for investment in housing rather than investing money on the rental like that. So these are some of the, I'm just giving few examples that how the change in the mindset because of this corona is going to change the consumption pattern in the country, while the long product may sustain a growth because of the retail demand in the housing sector, also because of variety of the initiatives government has taken. It is going to and they are themselves investing and creating environment for investment. So the infrastructure segment is bound to come. So this will change. At least the long product segment is should continue to grow. Not immediately, but of course, I'm looking at H2 as you rightly mentioned, that H1 will be quite a whitewash. Like, look at April 2020, the total production has been only 2.7 million ton against an average of 9 million ton of 1920, and 1.35 million ton was the total consumption against an average of 8 in April 2020. So things are in a very, very bad shape right now. So there is no denying that steel sector needs revitalizing, and we need to take certain steps. At least I feel that apart from the demand, which is going to be based on various factors, structurally we may take some action within the country to ensure that the demand continues to be met by the domestic producer. And there we have to learn from our own experiences. We had the anti-dumping duty and safeguard, yet because of the so much of fluctuation in the raw material prices, lost its impact. Similarly, if we look at the downstream industry and the upstream industry, we cannot work in isolation. So we have to work in a very coordinated manner in a self-sustaining ecosystem we have to create, so that we have more as Honorable Prime Minister says, we have to create a Atmanirbhar Bharat. So everyone has to join this entire government effort so that they continue to buy the local products and the Indian steel. So instead of importing, they try to buy as much as possible as Indian steel. We have to create a self-sustaining ecosystem in this entire thing. So one is that we have variety of adverse taxes which is known to everyone. So border adjustment tax, similarly the removal of lesser duty rules, and also the strict quality control order. Some of these actions will go a long way in ensuring that structurally Indian steel industry is protected from any outside, any undesirable imports. Like quality control order, there is a feeling in some of the sections that there are many products which we are not producing. Actually, the quality control order has been designed in such a way that any equivalent product cannot come. So this point is missing by many of those who are implementing this entire quality control order, and they must address this issue so that the uh, exporters, they need GIS, they need license, GIS license to export to India. So basically, some of these actions are required to be are needed very urgently before the market starts working. Like today, China has opened up. That's a very small window. It is just like two sides of the coin. There were huge imports in 14-15. There are some exports to China. So it is all because of momentarily shift of demand here and there, but we have to continue to protect our industry, and thankfully our ministry is very much live to this, and they have been supporting continuously our endeavor in this direction. I thank you.
Mrs. Thai,
Yeah,
so we have small question for you, sir. So,
yeah.
do you see any major shift in innovation of new product line where flats may actually compete with longs? And another question is how do you see Indian steel makers maintaining a minimum margin and not get driven by the push through sale just to keep the machines on?
Yeah. Uh, See, as I mentioned earlier, the coronavirus will impact the end product demands differently, various end product demands. In India, the sector that is almost immediately responsive to demand stimulation is the construction and infrastructure segment because of the major share of expenditure in this segment by government. Demand in flat product segment, however, can only be impacted indirectly by the government by creating the appropriate environment and hoping for expenditure flows to occur based on assessment of risk and rewards by industry. So I think it is uh, only natural that the government moves for faster and immediate benefits for directly pushing the expenditure in this segment and in the construction and which is under their control, construction and infrastructure. And I feel that accordingly the demand will be fluctuating, basically because of the to continue with the margins for the steel industry, we will have to uh, continue to keep changing our strategies based on what product is most suitable to the market in the change scenario. And like even if you look at bridges, even the flat product can replace many of the long products by the plates can be welded and can any kind of edge beam or any kind of beams can be made. So these shifts are going to take place. Similarly, like hot rolled coils can be used in the tubular structures. So all these things will happen, as if the demands shift, everyone would like to utilize their capacities. And that is how I see coming days going to shape up.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your reply, sir. May I request Shri
Hi,
V.R. Sharma ji
hi
for his
Jaideep.
speak?
This is Biddu joined in.
Yeah, Vidut, you can convey this mic to Mr. V.R. Sharma ji. Yeah, okay. Vidut?
Okay, okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
My sincere apologies to all the senior panelists. Sir, the connectivity in Calcutta has been really very bad, especially in north where I live after the havoc that the Amphan created yesterday evening. So my sincere apologies to all of you. Sorry I missed the initial two, presenters' views. I'm sure Dr. Nawal and Mr. Alok Shohai has already spoken. So I'll just refer to now Mr. V.R. Sarma sir, who is the Managing Director of Jindal Steel and Power. Sir, your views, please. And then I have a question to ask you, sir, after that. Sarma sir? Sarma sir, are you there? Jaideep, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes, sir. I can hear you, sir. Yeah.
So good afternoon, madam, and good afternoon, my colleagues, those who are on the panel. So of course the time is very challenging, but as the Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister told the other day that there is always an opportunity when there are such kind of catastrophe, they do happen. So I think for steel industry also there is a big opportunity now. I'm very optimistic because, and I will request Madam Rasika ji to help us in following areas, because most of the labor which has moved out of metro cities have gone to Chhattisgarh, MP, Bihar, UP, Jharkhand, Odisha, and Northeast. So whatever the government projects were supposed to be started, I request Madam to please help the industry and get these projects started as early as possible, so that all these labor which has gone to this area, they can be engaged and those projects will pick up the pace. So this is a, we can utilize this labor, those who have migrated from the metro cities to their home towns or home states. So this is one area. And if you see the overall the eastern and northeastern sector, so I think more than 60% people, including UP, they have gone to these states. UP is expecting about 20 lakh people coming from Gujarat, from Karnataka, from Maharashtra, and from many other locations. So I think all of the projects which were supposed to be started by government of UP or by central government, they can be started immediately, so that this labor can be engaged and there is no short of labor in these areas for the construction. This is one. The secondly, the Atmanirbhar as well as the Make in India drive. Atmanirbhar is declared very recently, but we are finding very positive response from government agencies. The Make in India has given us a lot of opportunities. I'm thankful to Ministry of Steel and specifically to Madam Rasika ji, who has helped us, and we have started getting orders for head hardened rails from almost all the railways, metro railways. So this is a very good step. So this is, I'm thankful to Ministry of Steel, and I think Atmanirbhar as well as uh, this Make in India combined drive will definitely restrict and discourage the import of steel in the country, and this is where the industry will get benefit. This is my feeling. Then already government has announced the fiscal benefits like delay in moratorium. I'm giving a time to pay back to banks through moratorium. So this moratorium, I will request that this moratorium should be extended up to 31st of December. In the meantime, maybe after 30th of September, in the third quarter, the bank banks can start taking the interest, but initially up to September, the interest should also be either it should be computed to as a loan basically, and to capitalize it, and finally uh, the uh, the moratorium should be extended up to 31st of December. This is what we are expecting. If this happens, then I think most of the industry people, our fellow producers, they will be getting a breathing time. And similarly, the MSMEs, they will also be getting a lot of breathing time if this kind of support is extended to them, because they are our customers, and unless they run, we cannot sell the material within the country. The another issue is some of the states have already waived the minimum demand charges and minimum consumption charges from the MSME's electricity bill. But some of the areas where the, like for example, we have some customers in Noida. So the Greater Noida, there is a company NPCL. They have not yet waived the minimum demand charges and so-called power factor charges. If these charges are removed, then all of our customers, those who are in small tiny customer for wire drawing, for bar bending, and for all these things, they can open their shops. Otherwise, very difficult for them to restart. The another big area is now the projects what our honorable minister Mr. Nitin Gadkari, he declared that he has around 450 projects on annual, and these projects will be declared as soon as this lockdown is lifted. I think now we should request honorable minister to release all those projects, so that all the demand comes from throughout the country. And apart from the 450 projects, the very ambitious projects of Government of India, that is Sagar Mala project, so that project should also be implemented. The other area which I have already suggested to Minister of Railway, Mr. Piyush Goyal ji, that we should now connect the Northeast from Bengal. So we should have a strategic tie-up with Government of Bangladesh, so that we can have a high-speed rail corridors, double line, and a high-speed road corridor from somewhere in Bangladesh to Darshana, to Dhaka, to Agartala, so that this can be a very strategic international highway and international strategic railway line, so that we can connect our seven sisters states from rest of the country. And that will give another benefit, because Meghalaya and Tripura, they are having lot of natural resources, including coal, and their coal is pretty very good coal, 5500 calorific value, and they have plenty of rubber plants. So once this railway line comes in between Bengal to Tripura, and finally this can be extended to Aizawl or maybe to Myanmar. So this can be a very international route. And many times we always feel that Doklam is going to be a big issue because it is a chicken neck. So politically and strategically also, this is good for the country. And today we have very good relations with Bangladesh. I think we can, and Bangladesh will be earning more than $5-7 billion from this particular business. So I think if that such kind of projects are taken, if Ministry of Steel propose these projects, then I think this will be a very good strategically, politically, economically, very good move. And our all seven sister states will be connected to Central India, and also they will be connected to Chittagong port if that international treaty comes in between India and Bangladesh. So Chittagong port is only 200 kilometers from Agartala. So that can also be a great respite for these states. So these are some of the suggestions. Already government has declared the private sector equity and the liberalization of coal mines. I'm sure the country will get benefit out of it, and we are expecting that coal gasification will bring a lot of synergies in this country. There will be many DRI plants will be coming, and a lot of FDI will come in this country if the coal is available at a very nominal price. Then we are expecting that once the coal gasification and DRI route starts, which is a very environment friendly route, and finally electric arc furnace, for which this Minister of Steel has been talking and discussing for a long time, I think that dreams can come true, and we can get rid of these blast furnaces. So this is what I would like to suggest, and I will request Madam Rasika ji, whatever suggestions I am giving, if you find that some of them or all of them are workable, then kindly help us. The other is there is one more last point. There is one more request. I'll request to Government of India and through Ministry of Steel that please for next 6 to 8 months time, whether it is MSME or it is a large organization, some tolerance level in compliance that should be modified, so that there is more tolerances available within the government and within the government agencies, and they should allow the industry a breathing time, so that by the end of the end of March 2021, they will shape up themselves. I'm not saying that they will violate, no violation at all as per law, but there should be some tolerance, additional tolerance given, so that they can breathe, and not too much of strict time bars. And if that is done, then I think it will be a very good thing. One more thing to my fellow panelists and to everybody. The chairman of State Bank of India, one day he through FICCI, he gave a very good message that we cannot reduce the interest rate to a level what we are expecting. We means the country is expecting, because I had to protect my depositors first. If my depositors, they don't stay with me, then from where the money will come? We appreciate Chairman State Bank of India's statement, but on the other hand, we request Government of India that okay, the interest rate cannot be brought down beyond a point or below a particular point, but the iron ore, coal, other minerals there, and the railway freight there, I think Government of India can definitely help the industry. And over and above, last point, kindly see that how can you promote, how can Government of India promote the exports? I mean, some of the additional export incentives will definitely bring a lot of respite to the industry. Thank you very much from my side. No, I'm not listening you. Your voice is not coming. Your voice is not coming, Mr. Bidyut. Your voice is not coming. आलोक जी, इनकी वॉइस आ रही है आपको?
No, I can't hear it. I'm not able to.
But could you hear me?
You were very clear. Absolutely. No problem.
Thank you. Mr. Bidyut, you can speak over telephone. Jaydev, yes, please.
Sir, there is one question, sir, basically, the Bidyut going to ask you. It's regarding the people are saying export of steel can be a good compensator to mitigate the dip in domestic demand for steel. Question is whether there are enough takers for Indian steel at a good margin in current global scenario, which all countries can really be targeted, and what all policy measures, for example, slash in export duty can help the cost for exports. Another related question is for short term, which is easier for India Inc. to target export of steel or export of iron ore. Do you think both have its significance and both can drive local state economy in similar measures?
You see, the natural reserves, natural resources, or the finished goods. If the country, there is a demand, I mean, if it is a need, then we export. I mean, that only Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Finance, and the cabinet can decide. But our country is first, and the second is anything else. We have 20 billion ton of iron ore. We have 400 billion ton of coal. We have natural resources. If there is some deficit for 2-3 months time, and if we export, there is no problem. You export iron ore or you export pellets, there is no problem. or you export steel, there is no problem. Now, next point is this is my view. The next point is how to find a balance in between export of steel, semis, pig iron, billets, blooms, slabs, hot rolled coils versus the domestic market. Domestic market, as Dr. Nawal said, will take maybe another 1 month or so, and by that time they gear up. There may be some problem because of rainy season. I agree with him, but the exports are definitely available, and today there is a demand. We can still make exports, and in whatever form, whatever way. So far the companies are making positive EBITDA. So far the companies are covering up their cost of manpower. I think it will be very good. I can tell you that most of the steel industry, I have not come across any steel industry who has across the board reduced or the salaries. Nobody. So people are being paid, and they are being paid full. So this is a very good sign. And so is the central government employees. So is the state government employees. So barring few industry in the country, most of the steel and major industries, they are paying. MSMEs are in trouble. I agree with them, and they are unable to pay because they are the startup or the small companies, 10 crore, 5 crore, 20 crore. So they are unable to pay. But the major industries have tried to pay full, and maybe 10 days of delay or 15 days of delay, but they have done it. So I think the purchasing power per se will not reduce, because they are the people, those who buy. So I'm sure the demand will come, demand will pick up, and the people will have great interest and great confidence in the Indian banking sector. So far, the Indian banking sector remains strong, and we all support them, and we support country, and we export, and over and above it demand something from government, that okay, for export please give us some incentive, so that whatever loss or whatever hardship we have been passing through, that can be compensated.
Sure. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, Bidut, you're on,
Yes.
right?
Jaideep, am I audible?
Yes, you
Bidut
are.
here?
You are. Yeah, you're on.
Okay, okay. So, Sarma sir, I think you have made some very specific points in your address. I think some of the actions for the government, some are actions for the industry at large. You have specifically highlighted, you are actually carrying a very positive view, which is coming from a senior leader like you from the steel industry, is really very encouraging for all of us to see. And we are kind of getting excited to hear that. Having said that, there are certain views that we have put to the table. I'm sure when we'll hear from Madam from the policy perspective, maybe some of the actions, as you have already highlighted, have been initiated, especially opening up the coal sector for commercial mining. CBM is a kind of really policy booster, I would say, for the overall mineral and metals sector, where gas-based kind of steel consumption and steel production technologies will be incentivized through that method. So these are some positive steps. I will come back to you later on when concluding the sessions, maybe on some of the points. Madam, if I may just request you now to share your thoughts. So Rasika Chaubiji, as all of you know, for whosoever is attending this webinar, she is the additional secretary in the Ministry of Steel. Madam has actually kind of driving a lot of initiatives at the Ministry of Steel level for promotion of higher consumption of steel in the domestic market. And looking at the current pandemic scenario, when exports is probably going to be one of the key drivers, and we would like to also hear from her that what are the thoughts from the government side, especially the points that Sharma sir raised in his earlier address. Over to you, madam. Madam, can you hear us?
Sorry, I was on mute. I was on mute, so you couldn't hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear.
Dr.
Yes, madam. Very much.
Associate National Council on Iron and Steel, Mr. V.R. Sharma, Managing Director, Jindal Steel and Power Limited, Shri Alok Sahai, my colleague in SAIL, and Mr. Vidyut Chakravarti. I'm very happy that you people are organizing this webinar on for revitalizing the steel sector. Let me tell you that Ministry of Steel, with post-COVID or before COVID, is always very concerned about how the steel sector is doing and how it can become competitive. And we have been working towards it from the very beginning. And now with the challenges which have arisen because of COVID, we are even more concerned. And I think I'll address a few of the points which Mr. Sharma had raised. But before that, let me share with you that most of your issues which our Mr. Minister, Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan has been having regular meetings with all the stakeholders. And wherein after we have identified the problem areas which are facing the steel sector into several buckets. Now, we have placed them, I just mentioned them to them briefly. I may not touch upon each one of them in detail. So we have identified the problems which are agitating the mind of the steel sector into regulatory issue related, then raw material related, logistic related, then demand related, working capital related, and trade related. So these are the six buckets in which we have identified are the problem areas which are being faced by the steel sector, and we have made attempts to in a very granular manner based on whatever was requested. Like I'll just give you an example. Like for raw material security, we have taken up the matter for helping these industry people that they should not be asked to make an upfront payment, and if they could be made to give a deferred payment after some time, because right now working capital is an issue. So like that, there are 7 to 8 granular issues in each of the areas which I mentioned, and which we have taken up with the concerned ministries. We have taken up with the Ministry of Finance, and our minister has written personally to all the ministers there. And while we are speaking today, you're all aware that Honorable Prime Minister has announced the stimulus package of 20 lakh crores, of which there are a lot of infrastructure investment which have taken place, which are going to take place. Now, one is about the housing for the migrants. You must have seen that 70,000 crore is going to be spent on housing, and which should bring cheer to the steel sector, because definitely consumption of steel and cement will go up. Then when the coal sector reforms were announced, we had a lot, around 50,000 crores was talked about for the evacuation infrastructure. That also is going to be of great value to us. Then apart from that, while we have things which were, and in the past also the RBI has given certain announcements. So I do agree that some of these announcements, like the long-term repo operation scheme, still has to reach down to our steel sector. But that matter has been taken up again, because after various options which have been done by the Reserve Bank for the various banks, the money has not trickled down to the steel sector as such. But we are hoping that it would, and I'll come on that issue a little later. Now, apart from that, there are certain dues which have been given to the CPSCs. I mean, who are the big brothers in the steel sector, and where they have been asked to make the payments of all outstanding dues at the earliest, to inject some liquidity in the market, and also been told that if you have a contractor, we can extend his contract for another 6 months. So like it's like there are a lot of things which we need to do, so that the whole purpose is that we should create demand. And as Alok Sai also mentioned, and I think Mr. Sharma also pointed out, that creating demand is what will, and especially in the auto and construction sector and infra are the major boosters for the steel sector, would go a long way for us. And so as a result, what I will do right now, I just touch upon 2-3 areas of all the issues which I mentioned, the 6 issues. I'll talk about the demand, I will talk about liquidity, and I'll talk about raw material. I just thought I'll touch upon these 3 because maybe others have been discussed time and again on various forums. So now, as far as demand is concerned, now you would the stimulus package has come. We expect the infrastructure investment which will take place. 1 lakh crore was announced earlier also. There would be there would definitely be some kind of momentum in the utilization of steel. And as Mr. Sharma rightly pointed out, that whatever is included in the National Infrastructure Plan, that needs to be expedited, and that is exactly what is the intent of the government. Now, you would be happy to know that in the National Infrastructure Program, even we in the Steel Ministry have 5 to 6 items which are featuring there in the, it is called the updated harmonized list of infrastructure, and basically it's all to do with slurry pipelines. But that itself, so we are trying, at least we are doing our bit to expedite those processes. And this is a very good effort. It's not only the public sector which is spending. This expenditure is coming from JSW, it is coming from SR and Tatas and NMDC. So it's a joint kind of an expenditure which is coming both from the private sector and the public sector. Now, Ministry of Steel always tries to ensure that wherever we have been, whatever has been our traditional demand, like infrastructure and construction and auto, that should get revived. And hopefully, as you all have said, that it will with the stimulus packages which have come. And Mr. Sahai also gives a certain reason why auto demand should go up. We are also very keen that new areas of demand come up, because we are alive to the fact that unless and until demand is generated, steel sector will tend to be little will have a little bit of a problem, and we will have no option but to look for export avenues. Even for export, Ministry of Steel has come up with there's a forum we have created, which is called the Steel Based Research Center, Steel, and where we are working on which are the countries which are where we have traditional exporters and where we can find new areas. So that is also on. So coming back to the demand generation, what we are trying to do is we are, apart from putting up capacities, which is one area, we are addressing the second aspect in a big way. You would have noticed that even in the past, our minister has held several workshops. I mean, basically to sensitize the Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of Railways that whatever they are importing as of now can be manufactured within the country and can be done by the steel sector. So we basically were trying to get the producers and the users together. And it was, I think we have met with substantial success. And I think Sharma Saab mentioned that a huge amount of head hardened blades, he has got certain orders. And I feel that maybe this kind of an exercise, if we can create forums like this for the producers and the users, it should go a long way in meeting the needs of the steel sector. Another area which we are targeting is steel bridges. Now, for this, we are not only developing the designs, which is coming in the way of steel bridge construction, we are also trying to understand what is the life cycle cost of a steel bridge and why it should be preferred over an RC construction. So, what I'm just trying to get at is that we are trying to handle demand from all angles, like, you know, trying to promote the cause of LCC at one, and we are taking that up with the Ministry of Finance and trying to tell them why we need to do LCC. At the same time, and we're trying to get it made mandatory in a project assessment. And our minister is in dialogue with the minister in MOD, so that all the, and I think there are some 100 to 200 bridges which are going to come. And if we can make the designs and make the steel available for that purpose, I think we can, you know, it can go a long way in increasing our demand for steel. So, I mean, I won't go on there. So, I mean, in brief, what I'm trying to say is that there are various areas we are targeting so that, you know, demand can go up. And maybe we can discuss this separately also because of time constraint. Now, second area which I thought I would touch upon is the area about liquidity. Now, you are all aware that we are all targeting a 300 million ton capacity by 2030. Now, that requires capital. It's around 8 lakh, and whatever little assessment we have done, you require 8 lakh crore if we want to reach that. Now, where does this money come from? Now, if you see how the steel sector normally gets financed, it's through debt-based financing, and that too, banks come to our rescue most of the time. Now, FDI is also a route, but if you see the statistics, till now only 9 companies have been able to get FDI, and that is to the tune of around 39 to 40,000 crores. So, and other strategies are also being worked upon, like portfolio strategy, unlocking of cash flows, alternate financing. So we have kept all these areas in mind, and very shortly we're going to have a conclave where which will discuss infusion of capital in the steel sector. That's one area which we are really concerned about. Now, if we see the capital which is there, our secondary steel sector is most hard pressed right now. Labor is one issue which Mr. Sharma very rightly pointed out, that we need to work and get the labor back at the earliest, as soon as the manufacturing and other things start. And apart from that, we also need to ensure that the working capital is available. Now, the buckets which I mentioned earlier have a lot of areas which we have mentioned therein and taken up with the Ministry of Finance of how to infuse liquidity. But because you know what, I'll just give you some data. Like of the 2,86,000 crore exposure which the Ministry of Steel has to the exposure which it has to funds, only we have around only 39,000 crore to 40,000 crore is with the secondary steel sector. Now this figure may be different because we can only access the annual accounts of a few who are listed. Otherwise, we don't or who have that annual accounts. We don't have data of others. But this is the thing. So maximum exposure is either to the ISPs, and so as far as the working capital is concerned, we are trying to ensure that we are talking to the banks and trying to make it and explaining to them that despite the NCLT, the haircut to the banks is much lower for the steel sector as compared to what it has been for the textile and other sectors. I mean, it is, if I'm not wrong, it is around 43% haircut for the banks, whereas as far as steel sector is concerned, whereas it's 69 or 70% as far as textile and other sectors are concerned. So all these factors, rest assured, Ministry of Steel keeps highlighting at the right forum so that the working capital is made available. And as I said, we have taken up the matter in recently post-COVID. We have written that we should relax the NPA norms to some extent. We have also talked about loans being given at concessional rates to interest rate. Grace period, which Mr. Sharma talked about, that's also on what we have talked about. Then we have also talked about waiver of fixed charges, especially for electricity, for water, etc. If all this, so we, if you can, the purpose I'm telling you all this is that when the ministries address an issue, it's a very holistic kind of way in which the whole issue is addressed. So something is long term, something is short term. So this is the I would like to mention about the liquidates. Then comes raw material. That's another area which I thought I must share with you, because despite having such a huge amount of iron ore and others, sometimes we don't we are not very competitive as far as the raw material is concerned. This is another area which we are targeting in a very, very big way to ensure that the raw material which is available is at the most competitive rate. Now, you are aware that the taxes and duties, so we have are always on a higher side as compared to what is there in the other countries. This is an area which we take up with the Ministry of Mines on a regular basis and is still under discussion. Now, import-export figures you were talking about, when you see the amount of export which takes place of iron ore, this time it has been slightly high. It's around 36 million tons has been exported, which includes around 12 million tons of pellets. But import has come down substantially. So we in the ministry are also of the view that as far as possible, raw material which should go out is only when it's a necessity, because only value-added steel or things which have a value addition should be moving out as an export, rather than sending raw material and then buying value-added products. So we would want to ensure that things are domestically manufactured. We're trying to create that kind of environment. And so this is as far as, and when I'm saying about the environment we are trying to create, let me share with you that very recently, I think not long ago in January, our minister has launched Purvodaya. That's it's an integrated steel hub concept which involves 4-5 states, that is Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, West Bengal, and Andhra Pradesh, Northern Andhra Pradesh, and Odisha, wherein we are trying to bring about capacity addition. We are trying to create steel clusters and improve the logistics so that we can create an environment which is most conducive to steel sector, because we expect that out of the 300 million ton which will come up in 2030, 200 million ton capacity will come from Odisha and these eastern states. So coming back to the point, we are trying to again create a kind of a holistic scenario. Raw materials should be cheap, logistics should be cheap. We are trying to work towards that. We are regularly in touch. In fact, with the Jharkhand government and Odisha government, because we are trying to develop 2 steel clusters, one in Kalinganagar and one in Bokaro. We are regularly in touch with them, and it's coming up it's moving on a fast track. So this is as far as iron ore is concerned. You would be aware that because of the auction which has taken place in the mines in Odisha, there is a likely disruption which may take place of around 56 to 60 million tons. To overcome that, you would be aware that the government of India has taken out certain acts whereby the EC and FC gets extended by 2 years automatically. They have also given permission to SAIL, the Steel Authority of India, to sell their own raw material in the open market, despite the fact that they are captive mines. They've been allowed to sell the dumps as well as their fresh mines. So the point I'm trying to make is that each and every issue which is of concern for revitalizing the steel sector is being addressed by the ministry in some way or the other. Now, scrap is another raw material for which you are aware the scrapping policy is already on the anvil. It is right now with the Ministry of Road Transport, and we expect that to be notified very shortly. For coking coal also, which has a major ingredient for our ISPs, we are trying to work out that whatever low-wall coal, mid-wall coke they're buying, they should not be paying the price of a low-wall coke, which is generally happening as of now. And to some extent, our buyers have been successful in getting getting a discount on the index. So, in nutshell, what we are trying to do is ensuring that the raw material is available to the steel makers at a lower price, to our induction furnace people at a lower rate, to our EF manufacturers at a lower rate, so that in turn the downstream players also get steel at a more reasonable price. You would be very happy to know that recently all the ISPs have agreed to provide the steel at export parity price to our EPCs. So that is a very good move they have made, and a 1 million ton of steel would be given to them in various product categories, so as to make them competitive. So I won't take much time. I just would like to say that to revitalize, we are aware of the challenges, and each of these challenges are being addressed, and so that we can bring the steel sector back. And I'm very hopeful the way the positivity with which all our ISPs and the steel sector have responded to the announcement made by the Honorable Prime Minister. There is no reason, as the GDP grows, our steel sector will grow, and because there's a direct correlation, and as the expenditure increases, I'm very hopeful. As far as export is concerned, let me just tell you that we are working out a strategy whereby we would be in touch with the MEA. We would be establishing contact. We are already establishing contact with the embassies and the ambassadors there, so that they could tell us the areas where we could bring our foothold, and we would like to make this data available to our steel players so that they can exploit it. And last, I would like to mention about the steel import monitoring system which we have put in place. That's another step towards increasing export and domestic production. The steel import was a demand of the steel sector for a very long time. Now, this gives us such a lot of granular details which the normal bill of entry is not able to give us. With this, and we have realized, and after the analysis which we have done, we've realized that our QCOs which we have done are not becoming a non-tariff barrier. So we need to do a little more of how to make them effective non-tariff barriers. So that if required, wherever we have sufficient domestic capacity, what is to be done that we do not get imports other than we have our things from within the country. So our domestically manufactured iron and steel policy, along with SIMS, that is the steel import monitoring system, and other efforts which we have made, will definitely ensure that domestic manufacturing gets a boost. And with this, I will hope that all our steel sector would be able to come back on track, and we will not be, our target of 300 million ton continues to be where it is. Thank you.
Thank you so much, madam. I had a couple of questions, and thanks for enlightening us, first of all, on some of the specific things that Ministry of Steel, in its individual capacity, as well as some of the things on the raw material side, in consultation with the Ministry of Mines, are working on for really revitalizing the steel sector for us, especially to propel the demand in the domestic market, and also utilizing the opportunity for exports of steel, that is possible in the near to medium term. Okay, I had two specific questions, madam, if I may ask you, please. Could I go ahead?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So my first question, madam, that we all know that India has set itself a target of reaching 300 million ton per annum crude steel capacity 10 years from now, 2030-31, in its National Steel Policy 2017. Now, considering the impact that COVID has created in not just the short to medium term demand, but also on the G2G trade relationships across geographies, at least with few of them, that we are getting to hear and read about, and the discussions are ongoing in the public platforms, which actually can have a medium to long term impact on the demand or the trade relationships. So I had two questions in this regard. Whether you see that there is a need to revisit and recalibrate this target of 300 million ton per annum, or do you think this is just a short-term impact and we should still stick to that 300 million ton? That's my question number one. The second question is that in order to boost the domestic demand of steel, what specific policy measures that may be targeted? For example, I have one specific question, especially say from the states like Odisha, where I have considerably spent my time over the last 5-6 years. That in Are we going to make any specific policy, kind of decisions, both at the central and state level, that in order to improve our per capita consumption of steel, especially towards promotion of downstream and ancillary segments, which should focus specifically on innovation of various types of products that can actually be consumed by the end consumers. There may be multiple types of downstream products that can be where there can be new segments of demand in the domestic market. That's the question I had, madam. Your thoughts, please.
yeah. Coming to your first question about 3 million ton capacity, when this national steel policy was made, I mean, there is we had started working on an action plan, because to achieve that, we have an action plan which we have prepared. So what we should do then, so that we actually reach a 300 million ton target, and Mekon, which is our consultant, has helped us prepare this program, and this plan along with one of our consultants who we had hired. So as of now, yes, there may be a little deflection, and you will agree that these are all very dynamic situations. I mean, you may have a 300, you can make it a little more, you could be a little less. But I think recalibration is definitely needed, and we will keep doing it, seeing. But I think at this point of time, it would be too premature to change the target, but definitely we'll keep a watch, and we'll try to expedite when it's needed, and whatever infusion or support of the ministry is needed, we will definitely do. So, and you would be aware that ever since the PM had announced the $5 trillion economy by 2024, we had already recalibrated uh, capacity addition to some, and we had kind of put an inflection there. I mean, it was not going to be at the same state. So I think even if we can continue that to some extent, that would also help. So coming back to your point, as of now, we are not going to recalibrate, and seeing the response which we have from the steel sector and the efforts which we are making to bring in capacity addition, I must tell you that there are various steps which are being taken. And as I said, we are trying to get working capital. Even the JVs with private parties, with investors abroad, examined. Like for example, I'm just giving for example, like suppose we have a tie between SAIL and some private investor like Moscow. What would happen is that SAIL would provide them the land which they have available, because that's an issue that really comes in the way, and we have active minds with them. So if they can be assured, the joint venture which would assure a kind of a relationship between a foreign investor and a steel CPSC, and we can get investment, that would go a long way in enhancing capacity. And we are quite hopeful that though we may get slightly derailed because of COVID, it should not impact us in such a way as, and we would not recalibrate it. Now, the second issue is what are we doing for demand? I think I did cover a little bit when I was speaking in my speech itself. That demand for us, while on one hand, our ministry is very clear that we have to have a two-pronged approach. While we will add capacity, we will also enhance demand. Now, it has to go hand in hand. And to increase the demand is why we have taken so many steps. We have a national, domestically manufactured iron and steel policy. Now, this policy we have just revised. We have included all EPC contracts in it. Now, and with this announcement the government has made recently that 200 crores worth of contract will only be done domestically. There will be no global tender for that. Means that contract will be done by a domestic manufacturer within the country. All this is going to give a fillip to the domestic demand. Now, I'm to the extent of being repetitive, I've just mentioned that we are holding workshops. See, basically, it is a thing which we need to keep sensitizing the users. We have to keep bringing the users and the purchasers together as much, and that is the place, and we can become a very good interface for the producers and the users. And that is exactly what we propose to do and we plan to do. Now, coming to the last point, I think you did mention something about that what are we going to do for the downstream. As I mentioned that we are trying to work on a cluster approach. In the cluster, we are trying to do two kinds of cluster, one around ISPs and second close to demand. Now, the cluster which we are talking about in one which we are thinking of in Kalinganagar, we have a Jindal stainless steel plant there. We have a Tata Nagar, Tata's Kalinganagar, and an NINL, which yes is going under for a disinvestment, but it's a very good asset to have. So we are planning to have the steel cluster there, where the downstream will be given a good handholding, so that a good ecosystem will be created, wherein they can especially make value-added steel, which could be given to the which would be used either by the ISPs. So the ISPs will support the secondary steel players, and the secondary steel and the ancillary and downstream will provide some kind of support. So I think we want to create an ecosystem that both can coexist. Vidyut, I'm through with my answer.
Yeah. Sure. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, madam. I mean, hello. I guess there is some background music, background words.
So thank you, Vidyut.
Yeah,
It's okay.
yeah, thank you, madam. Thanks for answering the question. Is very, I mean, it kind of gives us a very clear view in terms of the thoughts that the Ministry of Steel is having in order to promote the overall ecosystem, including the downstream and ancillary segments. As you've spoken about clusters like Kalinganagars, I'm sure with the steel hub that is being proposed, we'll get to see more traction in this regard over the next few years, which is good to know. I had one more specific question, if I may ask you, madam. We all know the big players. Sorry, but can you hear me?
Vidyut, can I take leave now, because I have otherwise it can be really quick, because then otherwise.
Yeah, I'll take 10 seconds, madam. I specifically had the question for the. Sorry, I lost you. Hello. Connectivity issue, perhaps.
Hey, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay. Madam, you said you are in a hurry, or I mean, should I drop the question? Or sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I have another meeting at 2, so I just need to rush there. I mean, it's a so if it's okay with you.
Sure, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, Vidyut. Thank you, Mr. Sharma.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much, madam.
Thank you.
Madam, thank you very much. Thanks for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'll take it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much, madam, for enlightening us.
So thank you, Biduji. As though your how is Kolkata today now?
So the weather is much better as compared to yesterday, but it's still gloomy weather. Uh, and there is issues of electricity connection at certain parts of Calcutta. Even now, they are restoring this slowly. And even the internet connection has been a real damp now, which I have been facing since morning as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
Vidyut,
think things are getting restored slowly. Yeah.
Vidyut, can
Yes.
you ask some question to other panelists also, if you have something in mind?
I think the questions you already had and kind of shared with you, which you have already asked to Mr. Sahai and Dr. Nawal. I had some additional questions, if I may ask, maybe Sarma sir or even Nawal sir or Sahai sir. Can I ask a couple of more questions if you have time?
Yes, yes, please ask, please ask.
Okay, so sir, I had the question that I actually had for madam in mind, but you can really throw light on this. See, we all know that the anchor units.
Sorry, you're lost again. Lost again. No, no, no voice, no voice. We cannot hear you. We cannot hear you.
Vidyut, are you there? Vidyut?
Yeah, now we cannot hear you, Vidut.
The EAF players of very small capacities, and there are plenty around within the country. And because of their sizes and the scale they operate in, they
Vidut, question. We cannot hear the question. We don't know what did you ask.
Vidyut, you're not audible. Vidyut?
Jadev, please speak to Vidut on phone.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
own set of challenges. And through representation, it is also reaching the Ministry of Steel, and I'm sure certain policy decisions are being taken in order to support. Yeah. My question is from the secondary steel sector perspective, the EIA players and
No, the question we could not understand the question.
the EA players.
What is the? Please give me your. You call me on my mobile, Jadev. Please take the question on mobile, then we can reply.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Sir, I think, sir, we should close it now because there's some issue in Vidyut area.
We can't hear him at all. I think, Jaidev, we have to close this meeting because none of us are able to hear.
Yeah, his connection is very poor.
Very poor. We can close this meeting the way we can't hear. It's very difficult to continue.
So I request all the and thank you to all the panelists for their views. The suggestion that we have received, we'll
Hello.
compile it and send it to the
Deepak
government
Sood
for
sir.
review.
Okay, Jaydev, Vidyut
Okay,
is out of range or the weather is very bad. So there is no Wi-Fi connection with him.
right, sir. I think I should
Not
close
He's
working.
it.
in real.
Close it, sir.
It's a
Okay.
bad day for him. Thank you, Jaydev.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Saji.
Sharma sir. Thank
Thank you.
you. It's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Nawal. Thank you, Sai Saab. Thank you.
Thank- Meeting.